Hey, what's up? This is Around the World in 80 Days here. Today we're talking technical clothing brands with an aesthetic link to military garments. It's an area definitely of interest to techwear fans, but also to the world of Warcore, a growing offshoot of #techwear on Instagram that we covered recently and is currently focused on a small number of brands and pieces. Often these are ones which originate from dropshippers, so product quality is not always there. It's the kind of thing that is more appropriate to be used for a cool photo shoot than it is for long-term wear. I'm all about giving people some more options to think about and introduce some things which I personally think are cool. And quite a few of these brands could be worn in different ways, both in that very kind of tactical goth crossover that permeates Warcore at the moment, but also in some more conventional stuff. It really just depends on how far you want to go, how many of those military or tactical elements you want to incorporate in an outfit. Ultimately, I'm hoping this is some stuff which might broaden some horizons, certainly be more versatile than some of those dropshipped examples. And yes, might be more expensive, but will be better quality stuff that you'll get more wear out of over a longer period of time. So with that in mind, let's take a look. And thanks to Soundcore for being the paid sponsors of this video, we'll come back to that later. I'm going to start off with Maharishi because although I've featured them several times on the channel before, I do think they really exemplify the kind of thing that I'm trying to get across here. Very close links to military clothing from all sorts of periods and countries, but recontextualized or remade or updated in some way with a bit of a different look to the pieces. Some of those go quite far into the more intimidating, more tactical looks. The balaclavas are a good example of that. And I could totally imagine some combinations of items here giving you a real kind of rebel freedom fighter type aesthetic, which maybe looks a little bit different to typical Warcore stuff in terms of maybe a little bit less futuristic, but certainly with that same kind of energy. Take this bomber jacket for example. Dropshipped Warcore and techwear jackets are often adorned with text and different slogans, but here we've got emblems and patches instead. It's a more direct reference to those military roots, and it's just as unconventional, just as eye-catching, and I think just as intimidating as many of those more technical looking jackets. This could work really nicely leaning into that tactical side of things. Get yourself a cool bag, mask, cargos, you know, go for the whole strapped up look if you want to, but equally something like this could look pretty cool, styled as a bit of a statement piece in a more minimalist streetwear outfit. Another thing that gives Maharishi extra appeal with respect to this aesthetic is that a lot of their pieces make use of Asian cultural references in some way, not just in terms of graphics, but in the use of naragi and hanten jackets, which are generally uncommon in the US and Europe. They very quickly give a more unconventional look to an outfit, and I think that's exactly the kind of thing that people are often after with this kind of style. And while yes, this is a British brand, I think their use of these references kind of goes beyond, oh, we put kanji on it because Japanese text is cool, but there's a kind of genuine desire to appreciate those kinds of cultural references. You know, you can see in the product descriptions often they talk about exactly what some of this iconography means and exactly where it comes from. Things do go on sale from this brand, both on their official store and at retailers as well, so if you've got your eye on something in particular, then definitely keep a lookout at the end of the season. If you're scoring half price on some cargos, for example, you'll get a really nice quality pair of things at a not too unreasonable price. I've got a few pairs of pants from them, I've got a couple of t-shirts as well. I've been pretty happy with everything so far. This season, their cotton hanten I think would be a good step into this brand. Super wearable in loads of different styles, but a little bit unconventional as well, and not too expensive relative to some of their other gear, like the padded naragis and stuff are way more expensive than this one is. But I definitely want to see someone rocking the aviator hat when that's released. This thing looks so edgy it should ship with a free Molotov. And if we're talking style versatility and wearable tech, oh boy do I have the thing for you. Thanks to this video's paid sponsor Soundcore, we are currently wrapping some of the brand new Soundcore frames. Boom. 2 speakers in each arm combined with a custom audio processor gives you a pretty cool surround sound effect without blocking out everything that's around you. I live in the countryside, so it's nice being able to go for a little walk with some tunes on, but still being able to hear the birds and all that other nice nature stuff. It's a nice contrast to one of the many Spotify hip-hop playlists. Obviously these use Bluetooth, so they hook up wirelessly to your phone, funny as wired sunglasses would be. These babies switch on automatically when you put them on as well, and you can control your audio through the little touchpads on each arm. I haven't even mentioned the coolest thing about these though. I have far too many clothes, so it's important to be able to have these sunglasses to match. Good thing with these, you can pop the arms off and switch the front of the lenses. I've got the landmark clear ones here at the moment, but I also liked the festival ones that were on the website, and if I fancy something a little bit more low-key, I will switch these out for the Wander frames. Some of them, like these ones here, are designed to block out blue light as well, so perfect for all you epic gamers out there. The starter pack comes in at $199.99 and the additional frames are $49.99, and considering many of these are polarized, they do actually make for a fairly cost-effective solution, especially if you want to swap out your frames quite a lot. The Bluetooth and phone connectivity means you can actually use these for calls as well, so best believe I'm going to be flexing some shades on my next corporate Zoom call. If you want to find out more about the Soundcore frames, definitely hit up the link in the description. You can even give these a little go yourself because they have a virtual try-on experience, both on their website and on the Soundcore app, so you can see which frames are going to look best with those fire techwear fits. It has to be said, accessories are super important when it comes to Warcore and these more tactical aesthetics. I'm not just talking sunglasses, but modular gear, attachments, molly webbing, all of those kinds of things. D4 Bags is a relatively unknown carry goods manufacturer from Ukraine, making exactly this kind of thing, in small quantities and reasonable prices considering the nice materials and hardware being used here. X-Pack and Cordura combined with Fidlock V-buckles definitely give you an elevated look and feel, and a better quality product than the very basic ballistic nylon used by the kind of Amazon or military surplus places, or those more basic tactical fashion brands. But a lot of it is undeniably tactical in nature, whilst being appropriate for that urban technical look as well. And thanks to the pretty liberal use of molly webbing, there are loads of ways you could customize this kind of thing and really make it your own and take it in whatever direction you wanted. And I'm willing to bet too, this is the kind of brand where you could probably message them directly if you had a particular thing in mind or wanted a variation of an existing product. It's potentially something that they could make for you. When it comes to bags though, there are loads of options for cool, tactical looking stuff. Pretty much every video that I've ever done on accessories or bags will have appropriate content in some form, from Aoku to Alpha Motif to even acronym yes if you're balling hard enough. There'll also be some more Coat et CL stuff coming up too in some form if that kind of look is up your street. Maybe you're thinking though, oh, all this clothing is too normal for me. I want, something that's really gonna grab that attention, like that. Well, if you want to feel like the main character in a Netflix sci-fi series, you better listen up. And if you've been watching the channel a while, you probably know what I'm about to say. Hamcus. That's right, you've seen him in Star Trek, you've seen him in Foundation, you've seen him on Billie Eilish. It's a brand with so much lore, they have their own wiki, and they've just released their second drop of FW21, so there's some fresh stuff to check out on their website. Honestly, I think some of these looks from their new collection are great. You can really see those military references, lots of layering, lots of tactical stuff, but with so much emphasis on different proportions and unconventional shapes that it really gives this stuff a lot of life. Some of these fits are full-on cyberpunk security guard, and it's absolutely the kind of stuff that suits gearing up and going out to do a cool photo shoot in. You cannot deny that this stuff is impactful. I also think while these pieces do build very effectively into these costume-like outfits, you could definitely take individual elements and use them to provide a very unconventional twist on more standard stuff. I've got one of the Hamcus manta ray jackets from a year or two ago now, and I find that that works really nicely with other brands and gives some really cool, interesting looks. And from the new collection, I think some of those jackets or cargos could easily be integrated into that typical kind of military or warcore sort of outfit and give a pretty cool futuristic twist on things that maybe is not that commonly seen. If nothing else, their lookbooks serve as great inspiration of a different way of building this very layered, very tactical inspired look, but ultimately achieving a pretty different aesthetic to what we see quite commonly. Okay, so both with Hamcus and Maharishi, we've talked about them before, albeit in a different context. What about something totally new? Mementomori is a Japanese designer creating one-of-one jackets primarily based on the MA1. But when I say based, I mean loosely, because these things have been given all kinds of unconventional makeovers and pretty extreme updates made here where pockets, straps, inbuilt masks and other details have been taken to the absolute limit. They've even done a jacket based on RoboCop in the past. The whole reconstructed side of this brand really appeals to me and definitely evokes that dystopian energy, imagining a world where everything needs to be reused and adapted to some new way of life where bottle caps are the currency and everyone's everyone's fighting over fuel. Anyway, if you want something unique, you definitely can't do much better than this, because every single jacket is one of one, and it is made by a single designer. The downside is, right now on their website, you can't actually buy anything, presumably as a direct result of that. But it's definitely a brand to keep an eye on the Instagram, as presumably all the things that get uploaded there eventually make their way onto the shop. Taking votes as well on Robocop versus Fallout Power Armor as to which one is cooler. If it's the more grungy stuff that appeals to you when you're thinking warcore and tactical stuff, then you should definitely know about The Soloist, or Takahiromiyashita The Soloist to give the brand its full name. Japanese brand, as you might imagine, and uses some technical styles and use of pockets and zips as aesthetic details, but with a lot of graphic prints, destroyed punk-inspired clothing, and more. It tends to be pretty expensive at retail, not gonna lie, but it's another one where you may well find some pretty hefty discounts on some of this stuff. I remember there were some sneaker collabs in the past, Converse, Nike, Salomon to name a few, and some of those ended up being available a pretty significant amount below retail. You'll definitely want those sneakers on your radar if this kind of look appeals, but even their more basic stuff, graphic tees, hoodies, if you're finding stuff like that at a bit of a steal or secondhand, you might find a very interesting way to elevate your outfit. Time to calm down a little bit now and head to the world of super wearable military influenced clothing, which yes, could look great with Warcore, very tactical things, but also has a lot of life outside of that. Engineered garments is one to look out for here. Some of their more popular models have direct references to military clothing. Their FA pants, for example, are based on a French military design. And I think it's pretty cool owning something, even if it's not necessarily a genuine piece of military gear, that kind of has that story or that reference attached to it. You get this sense that, oh, originally this pocket array would have been used for X function, but now it looks pretty cool and it's a good way of carrying my phone. I think a lot of engineered garments enjoyers are not necessarily your typical techwear fans, but more people who like this kind of slightly retro but also timeless aesthetic and maybe want to incorporate a slightly more utilitarian style into a more minimal or classic streetwear kind of wardrobe. It definitely does feel like filtered down military clothing as opposed to recreations. But could you take some of these pocket heavy pieces to the next level if pairing them up with a bunch of more overtly tactical stuff? Yeah, absolutely, and if you choose to do that, you'll have a pretty good quality item of clothing that will be right at home for those, very tactical looks, but also in a more low-key kind of style if you just want to wear it down to the shops. With a brand like this, and in fact almost anything you come across, definitely don't be put off by the kinds of product pictures you'll often see, because it is definitely possible to use some of your own style and your interpretation to take these things in a very different direction to how they're presented by default. In fact, similar brands to check out here if this style does appeal include Double Taps, who are a Japanese brand using a lot of military style and references in their clothing. You've got Neighborhood, another Japanese brand. Even Canadian retailer Haven, they've been putting more work into their own garments now, including a collab with Engineered Garments. Would definitely fit in with the military surplus, slightly outdoorsy kind of look that something like Engineered Garments presents. I'm going to hit you with a wild card at the end because I have to admit I've only really seen these guys on Instagram and not really heard much feedback from anyone buying from the brand or much discussion around them at all, to be honest, but Modular Gear Project, very clearly tactical and military inspired, just released their third collection. Molly webbing, straps, pockets, all pretty common, and as the name would suggest, a lot of changeable elements with high functionality is their thing. They're clearly approaching their collection as a system where the user can take different elements of that depending on what they need at any given time and mix those things up in a way that makes sense to them. Some of those accessories too are essentially more unconventional takes on the typical military holsters and things like that that you're likely to find elsewhere. I'm certainly seeing a lot in common between these guys and other more established brands, but as I said, this is only their third collection, so perhaps in time they'll develop a little bit more of their own identity. Hopefully those are enough to give you some fresh ideas as to the world of Warcore or more kind of military or tactical inspired clothing. Of course, this is just a bit of a subsection of the massive range of brands. I tried to cover a little bit of a variety in terms of some of those different elements, and if there's a particular thing that appeals, giving you a bit of a direction that you could consider going down. Keen to hear which of those directions most appeals to you though, and if you have any direct experience with any of these brands, because of course that's going to be really helpful helpful for anyone that is checking out this video and interested to hear a bit more about this stuff. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, you found it useful, please do give it a like because that is super appreciated, and as always, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week with another one. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to catch some more, there's going to be links going up at the top. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then definitely consider doing so, because we've got some interesting stuff coming up. We've got some more less desirable techwear, let's put it that way, to review. So that'll be a fun one, and there'll be some more cool stuff as well. So keep an eye out. We'll catch you next week.